and welcome to this episode of Transformational Leadership TV, where we inspire, equip, and challenge leaders just like you to do their part to change the world around them. So I'm your host, Genesis Eakes, and today I've got a special guest. We've got Jeanne Porter with us today, who is the founder of Women in Business Networking. And she is a fantastic example of someone who is bringing transformational change to their community. So Jeanne, why don't you take a second and just say hello to everyone and maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi. It's one thing. I am so glad to be here. Thank you, Genesis, for having me here. It's a wonderful opportunity for me to share some of the things that I love doing. And one of those things is I'm probably you would call a true entrepreneur. Other than maybe probably 20 years of my life I've spent in the juvenile court system and a couple of years with the Better Business Bureau, but the rest of my life has been in entrepreneurship. So transformational a part of my life is the entrepreneurial part of it. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. I can't wait to dig into this because the more I have learned about you, the more I realize I think it's true. You are a serial entrepreneur, which is pretty fantastic. You've got a big track record of success behind you. And I'm ready to just dive in today. So one of the things that we talk about here on this channel, Jeanne, is we're talking directly to transformational leaders. And when we talk about transformational leaders, one of the things that we say that differentiates a transformational leader from someone else is that transformational leaders, they don't just see problems. I think there's a lot of times, there's people out there that probably just have rose-colored glasses on and just don't even see problems. But I think if you're a leader, you're going to see that there's problems around you. Transformational leaders take it one step further and they don't just see the problems, but they are motivated to take some action and do something about it. So I mentioned before that you are the founder of Women in Business Networking. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about Women in Business Networking and what was happening in your community at the time that made you want to bring about this transformational change?
Well, Women in Business Networking is about supporting women, a peer support, basically, and women supporting each other, one another, and in their business world. Before I started Women in Business Networking, I was attending a leadership institution in Columbus, Ohio, and I really loved what was happening. But the focus on that leadership institution was politics, having more women in the political arena. Well, that's great. And it was a true blessing for me. However, that's not what I really wanted to do in Dayton, Ohio. When I saw what I saw in Columbus, I thought I really would like to do this, but I would like to have the focus be on more on business because women need support of each other. So I came back from Columbus from this, and I started researching networking organizations, and there are probably thousands of them across the world, thousands. And so I kind of looked at to see what everyone else is doing and maybe borrowed an idea here and borrowed another idea from there, put together a website and held my first lunch and learn. And I had probably 20 women at that lunch and learn. And it was just people that I knew from randomly from the business world. And so from that one lunch and learn, I ended up by the time that we merged with the Better Business Bureau, and I'll tell you more about that in a little bit, we were holding 150 events annually. So it grew tremendously in about 6 years. And you know what? It was the time of the recession. And a lot of people were very surprised that we were so successful because of that. It was in that time. But I found out, Genesis, that women were hungry to have some kind of camaraderie with other women, especially entrepreneurial women. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. We started a entrepreneur group, and we decided to keep it at 20 women. And make it intimate, so people will feel comfortable in sharing and so on. And so that filled up and probably in just within a week, and those with those 20 women. And so we started that group. Someone came to me and said, "Oh, I really would love to be in this one of these groups. What would you start another one?" So we did, and we ended up starting 5 groups of 20 women. We had 100 women in entrepreneur groups. So it really said a lot to us that women really needed someone to be there just to find out the camaraderie, to find out what's working for them, what are you doing that is making you successful, so on and so on. I can remember when I was with the juvenile court, we had directors meeting on a quarterly basis, and that quarterly meeting, the best part of that meeting was sharing with each other our successes and the things that we needed to work on, and the objectives that we were looking at. So that was one success story of women in business networking.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I think it's interesting. I'm so glad that you brought up that you started during the recession. So here it is, the recession. Businesses are clearly struggling left, right, and center. And in the middle of this, you found out it sounds like it was kind of driven a little bit from something that you were looking at for yourself and had witnessed or experienced in the political side of things over in Columbus. And we're like, you know what? I wonder if there's other people like me, if there's other people out there that are looking for that connection and looking for the camaraderie. Wow. I mean, that's amazing that you clearly found an audience and clearly found something that was needed and where people were wanting to grab onto that and to help change. So what do you think it was that I know you mentioned that there's some camaraderie and that women were looking for that. And obviously there's a recession that was going on. So if you think about the impact to the community at large, what do you think the impact was? So you were able to form these groups and to really provide the space for women to come together. What do you think that impact was on the community?
I think probably the impact was probably the outcome of the unity that these women came together to support one another. Was quite a unique group of women, and for them to be able to also share their business and have that support of their business from other women and other people. I think that was one of the biggest things that had an impact on our community is growing businesses, especially new businesses of entrepreneurs. We only did not only attract entrepreneurs, but there were um, professional women, attorneys. It was amazing the background that we had of women and that were involved with women in business networking.
That's awesome. I love that. And I think it's interesting that you bring up the unity factor, because I think one of the things that I hear so much right now, even as I travel around the country and around the world, and even just every time I turn on the news, I was just having a conversation with my husband earlier today about the news cycle that we had watched last night, and it's like there's so much divisiveness. There's so much that wants to divide us on every front, whether it's women getting divided from women, or women and men and children and adults, and just anything that we can find to divide over. It seems like that's kind of the narrative. And so being able to bring people together in a unified fashion, it is, I'm sure, has had a tremendous impact on your community. And being able to realize that you can be in business together. I think that's one of the misnomers as well, is that you can have a successful business and still like the people that are maybe competition for you. And
Yeah.
there's a healthy respect for one another, and you can spur each other on and get better instead of trying to take each other down, or like making it personal in that way.
And I can give you a great example of that. We had a conference for women in business networking, and probably about 400 women attended annually. And one year, several women, 2 women had the same kind of type of business, and rather than saying, oh, well, if you're going to be there, I'm not going to be there, they took their space and put them together, and they did it together. So it was really pretty amazing to watch that unity within that group and how they did that.
That's great. I love that. Because I think there's a really incredible thing that happens when we can actually work with each other and see what other people are doing. I think about like scientific inventions and all of the different things that have helped move our world forward at these big giant leaps that we've been able to take. It's all because we built on the work of people that have gone before us. And so the more that we can do that, I think the more we can innovate and the more impact that we're going to be able to have on the world around us, which is pretty cool.
That's true. That's true.
So you told us a little bit about how you got started. I love that you just had this idea and you're like, you know what? I wonder, and threw it out there and saw all of this traction coming around it. But tell us a little bit about, I can imagine that there's been some challenges along the way. So what were some of your challenges? Maybe getting started, or maybe, like once you did get started or something like that. Tell us a little bit about those challenges.
Well, when I first started, and I did all the research on different networking organizations, and I ran across one, and it was a woman in Canada, and in fact, it's not her. I think the organization was Roaring Women, and so I kind of was following her for a couple of years and watching what she was doing. So I called her one day and I asked her. I told her what I was doing, that I was starting up a new networking organization, and I would like some wisdom, pieces of wisdom from her. What would she tell me to, and what advice would she give me? And she said, Jeannie, there are thousands and thousands of networking organizations across the country. You've got to find something that sets you aside of all the others. And, it was one of the best pieces of advice I had received in a long time, because I took that, and I think that's why we ended up with 150 events annually, because of the fact that not every woman is cut out to be able to be available at any time, like mornings. Some are available in the mornings, some are available in the evenings, some are available at lunch. So we wanted a menu of opportunities for women to be able to get together, whether it was an after five, whether it was a breakfast, whether it was a lunch and learn. And then we also wanted to make sure that women, we had a couple of really nice recognition programs in the Dayton area, and but then, you know what? And they were one would recognize 10 women and one would recognize 8 women. And I thought there are so many women that need to be recognized for all that they do in our community. The Dayton community is a great community, and very collaborative. So I came up with a 25 women to watch, and we started holding a gala every year. And that gala is going on strong now. And it's a time where women feel, those that may not ever be recognized for what they do in the community and what they do in their lives, have an opportunity to be recognized. So that's and we probably recognized 600 women in our community through that program. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. And the challenges, oh, there's always challenges in whatever you do. I think for me, casting visions is easy. I think that anyone that's an entrepreneur will agree with me that doing the hard work day in and day out to make that vision come alive is the hard part.
Mm,
That's the challenge.
yeah.
But in doing so, I came to embrace the gift of support and collaboration so much in our community. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, because I think you're right. When it comes to when we're talking about leaders, and especially transformational leaders, or an entrepreneur, or somebody that has seen a problem, they're going after it, they're working to make the world a better place in some way, shape, or form, and they've got this big vision for it. But the hard work is the day to day, because it's not always glamorous. It's not, sometimes it's just boring. It's
It-
just
it's
boring work, and you still have to do numbers and accounting work, and sometimes you're working on social media posts and do whatever those tasks are that might be boring to you, because I think everybody's got some.
Yeah.
But the fact that you were able to lean into collaboration just seems like that was a true gift in the end.
Yes, right. I think another challenge probably is to um, create the leadership within the organization that we needed to make sure that we met the needs of women in our community. So growing that leadership, an advisory board, a leadership team, that was a key piece for us. And so that was quite a challenge. In fact, for the first year, I pretty much did most of everything myself, but then until I finally figured out this isn't going to work. I need some help. And so I had been watching women for probably a year. And the 8 women I had on the advisory board, I didn't know before I asked them to serve as an advisory board meeting member, because I've been watching leaders throughout for that year and just kind of handpicked those 8 women. And they were very well picked because they were the ones that created the foundation for women in business networking.
Mm. Well, that's fantastic. I love that, because it does. I think of a quote from John Maxwell that says, "One is too small of a number to do anything great." Right?
Yes.
And it's like, as soon as you get that vision and you're starting to work towards doing something that has significance, I think you realize really quickly that you need a team. And you've got to be able to build a good, solid team around you that can help you accomplish that vision. So,
Yes.
well done. So,
Yes.
let me ask you this question. Was there ever a moment where you wanted to give up?
Oh, many moments. Not just one. There were many, especially when we began to grow so quickly. I think that's probably what was one of my biggest challenges, is how am I going to do this? This is a lot. Because I had no idea women were so in need of this type of support of one another. And so even though it was rewarding, it was still that there was still a challenge. And so there were times that, and I think when I decided to create a leadership team and bring on people to handle all the pieces that came with the organization, that's when I figured out that I don't want to give up. I love what I do. I love encouraging women. I love encouraging people, um, and just supporting them and knowing that they are valued, I think is the most important part to me.
Mm, I love that. I love that. Yeah, that was my next question. You just jumped right in there. It was perfect. Where because my question was like, what? Because clearly you kept going, and my question was, what was it that kept you going? And I love that you said just being able to see the women supported and encouraged and empowered. So I
Yep.
think you've got to have that. There's got to be something that resonates with the passion of your heart, right? That keeps you going.
Yes. Yes. Agree.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh. So you mentioned earlier that something about the Better Business Bureau and where things are today. So catch us up to date. We know where you started back in the recession and just kind of had this idea to help support women, and it just kind of took off like gangbusters. So where is it today?
So I enjoyed so much growing with with the organization. And then I began, and I had about 50 women volunteering their time to make women and business networking a success. And, I watched them, and apparently they were receiving something back from it, or they wouldn't be giving their time. So that's what I really noticed the most. So I decided that I didn't want that to go away when I do. So I began to looking around in our community to see if I could find an organization that um, would line up with what our thoughts and abilities were. And the year before that, Women in Business Networking received the Integrity Award from the Better Business Bureau. So I got to know them a little bit. Yeah. And so one of their employees was on our leadership team, and I shared with her one day that I really wanted women in business networking to continue on once I was gone and just didn't want it to go away. And she said, well, why don't we talk to the president and CEO of the Better Business Bureau there in Dayton and see what they say? So we did. He liked the idea. And so we put together a couple teams, a leadership team from our side and a leadership team from his side. And we kind of looked at to see what that might look like. And we met and we finally merged a few months later. And today it's a program of the Better Business Bureau in Dayton, Ohio. So I'm really excited and still flourishing, still serving women, still serving our community. It's just great. And it's a national organization, so I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. So I'm excited about that. I am so pleased. It just makes my heart happy to watch it today.
That's incredible. I love that you were able to see this issue with wanting to see women supported and giving them a place where they could network with one another and not feel isolated, and something that you had got to experience in that political arena over in Columbus, and brought it to the Dayton area for all women that happened to be whatever part of business that they were in, and created a space for them. And now it's just the extent, it sounds like the reach and the impact within the community is just continuing to grow, and it's part of a national organization now that can live on for generations to come and keep impacting the lives of the people in the community. That's incredible.
Mhm.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
Thank
for all that you are doing to make a difference. So let me ask you this question. What piece of advice would you give to other transformational leaders? Now, not everybody has the passion like you do to help see women supported in that same way, but maybe they're seeing other issues in their community, or they're seeing other problems around the world. And so, if they're in that place like you were, what would you say to them? If they're in that space and they're trying to get started with something, what would you say? What advice would you give them?
all I've always believed that if you're helping someone else to succeed, you're going to succeed. I've always believed that. Um, Sometimes we forget that. I like to call it a hand up instead of a hand out. To helping individuals to be more creative and help them to recognize the talents that they may have. So I think it's just caring about other people. One of the things is caring about others, and just looking at how you can integrate your own life with the lives of others. I think is the piece that I would share.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that is an interesting piece of advice. Thank you so much for that. 'Cause I think sometimes when I talk to people around the world, I talk to a lot of people that want to make a difference in people's lives, but they don't realize that if you're really going to have an impact is up close and personal.
Mhm.
You've got to
It
be willing
is.
to be able to invest your life and be personal with the people, the population, the community that you want to make a difference in. And so finding ways that you can invest your own life into that. So yeah, that's great advice. Thank you for that. And being able to find ways that whatever that passion area is for other transformational leaders, that they can find that way.
Yeah. When
That,
you recognize a need in your community and you have the ability to do something about that, I think that's truly a good sign of a great leader when they can do that.
yeah, absolutely. I would agree. All right, transformational leaders, it's your turn. You know the drill by this time, because we know that we don't just see problems as transformational leaders, we take action. So, my challenge to you today is to take a look around you. take a look at some of the things that you are involved with or maybe need to be involved with, and look for ways that you can invest yourself, not just try to impact from a distance, but where can you actually get involved and take Jeanne's advice and invest yourself a little bit closer to make an impact in your community. So all these actions are great, but we know accountability is the name of the game. So let us know in the comments below what action you decided to take today. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so you can stay inspired, equipped, and challenged to change the world around you. Until next time, thank you so much, and bye-bye.